probably need to avoid the extreme sentiment. I just thought I'd just do a graphic as to explain what's happening with FX and probably the Euro USD right now, because what's happening in the Euro USD is we are at the precipice of becoming a buy or a sell. Okay, so we're teetering on the 50% line. As we go into the FOMC tomorrow, it's very, very important to be caught, to ensure you're not caught offside. And this is why I'm advising that we wait for the FOMC. So what could happen potentially is, you short it and then price comes up. And so those guys who entered here, they're encountering losses. Like we saw in March, I think March 30th, they really did short it in a big way. And price did come up a lot. And, they got pretty screwed. They got burnt and they got stopped out. And so price fell. And so we're doing this now. We're about here. And this is March, this is present day. Possibly going to switch over the bias, so we do need to be careful. Now, hopefully that's clear. You don't want to be caught offside, especially when we see a big move, because it's really going to propel, and it could propel southwards as well. So it's looking potentially likely. They've gone long, so price falls. So there is that. That's the condition one. Just to be aware of the 50% line, the bull-bear divide. And now probably the little bit more complex thing is the overbought or oversold parameters. Now what happened is that we've got like the lazy trader, the new guy, has looked at the price performance. I think this looks pretty good. I'll go long. I mean, look at this. We've rallied like 2%, 3%. This is looking like a good one. I'll enter long, and it should be all right. He does profit, and it comes down to his break even. Now he thinks, well, I mean, I made quite a bit of profit there. I mean, surely, I've been told to hold on to my winners, so I'm at break even. Surely it will come up. I'm sure it will. Well, let's see what tomorrow brings. Price falls. Now he's encountering a little bit of loss, and it continues. And now what's happened now is that it's encountered a medium-sized loss, the latecomer, like the lazy trader. And as this comes down, we've got all that momentum, all those positions got stopped out up here, liquidity taken. Now you think about all that weight behind that move, that inertia. It's going to really push price. And now we're coming to like a 50% squeeze right now. So the guy who entered here is encountering a medium-sized loss. It's likely, because of that momentum, we're going to continue. And unfortunately, that guy who entered here long has now got destroyed here. And the fear and hopelessness and despair and that horrible feeling of exiting a huge loss just because he has to. And that's what's going to encounter here. And so what happened, the new guy, he enters, thinks, wow, this is looking like a sure thing. Wow, this is really bearish. Cool, yeah, this looks like a good one. I'll short it. He's allowed to profit. And so he profits. He probably should have exited there, but he didn't. Then he gets to his break even, encountering losses. And he gets to a medium-sized loss. And it will continue. And then he'll get a catastrophic loss, and he'll encounter a big loss, and he'll have to exit manually or by margin call, and then that's that, and then we'll be here again, and then it will come down, and then it will come up forever. So lazy trader, latecomer, does profit because he's actually with the trend, but he doesn't realize that these FX pairs, they are prone for reversals because that's just foreign exchange. They don't go in straight lines, they go in like cyclical patterns. So that guy is allowed to profit, and then it goes against him. So why I believe we're getting lots of no messages is that we're seeing the guys profit, which would make sense. They have to profit, otherwise they won't come back to the casino. But the key is that it doesn't continue with them. it goes against them. So, and that's what we're going to see. So it makes sense. I mean, the guy is right. You know, he's looking at prior price performance and think, well, okay, and he is allowed to profit, but he doesn't realize it's going to go against him, and he's not aware of the momentum behind this big move. So currently we are here as we go into FOMC tomorrow. Lots of reasons for the dollar to perform well, but we have to remember the fundamental reasons for the dollar to perform poorly, because we are risk on. And risk on is when the indices go up. Risk off is when indices come down. S&P is making all-time highs, NASDAQ all-time highs, Dow Jones all-time highs. Because of that, the dollar shouldn't really be performing that well. However, we have to, we have to take into account the fundamentals. This is the video just on really the sentiment, but you do want to keep an eye on your fundamentals for sure. So that's just a quick explanation. We'll see quite a few no messages here, and this is why we avoid. And we're going to get a few no messages here, and this is why we want to avoid this as well. And so the dollar CAD did this as well, and those latecomers, those guys who saw this thought, wow, this is really bearish, and then they wanted to get that SLC, the 1.2 round figure, and so they really pumped price down, the retail guys, and it never did quite get that liquidity, and it's gone against them now, and they're not only they're not at a break even, they're encountering loss now. And so when it comes up, the ratio's gonna constantly evolve, and the more long they go, it's becoming more of the more bearish they become, the more of a buy it is. So hopefully it helps. One, you do want to be aware of the 50% line. That's condition one of the signal, and condition two is the overbought, oversold parameters. So this is key, and you can have visibility of this on the FX SSI pricing. So you go to the products, and you've got the all the things there. There's your current ratio, which is really important, and then you've got the ratios as well, which is the dynamic there. So yeah, I mean, this is them going long. See, when they go long, see that action there, but boom, and then they shorted it, and here, so we come up. So this bit here, they get paid. This explains what we're saying about the overbought, oversold. So yeah, it's all very, very interesting. Hopefully it helped. So you do want to get FX SSI ratios, and you do want to get the SLCs as well. Tools, where are we? MT4 products. There you go, stop loss clusters. By having the stop loss clusters, then you know where to target, and it's incredibly powerful, especially if you look at the sizes of the stop loss clusters as well. So yeah, hopefully it helps. It's probably worth mentioning that this really does apply to FX, not so much indices, because indices is pretty much always a buy, because the retail guys are conditioned through fear and manipulation to be bearish. It's just very common practice for the retail guys to short S&P, the FTSE, the DAX, the Dow Jones. They're just almost encouraged to sell it from fear that they see in the in the news and Twitter. And you can apply logic, and then if you apply logic, you think, well, it should be falling, right? And they don't realize that they're actually with an enormous majority of other bears, other retail bears. And so that's a common thing. So this won't really apply to indices so much, but really it does apply to FX, because the flows are a lot tighter with the indices. This cyclical is a lot more prolonged. And so this would be like 3 months on the Euro USD. It's just enough to get them stopped out. For indices, we're talking maybe 6 months, years, 2 years. And for some reason, I don't know how, but they just remain bearish, retail guys, on indices through fear, I assume. So just be careful tomorrow. Got FOMC, and Euro USD is at a critical junction. and we could see a flip. And don't be caught off guard. And if you want to use my code, that's fine. And you can see how the QuasiDB code's got your big discount as well. If you enter it's got to be in capitals. Oops. There we go. And you apply that, and it's a big discount. And that's what I've gone for. So, yeah, don't be caught late, and don't be caught offside on the 50% line. Here's fine, but that's not fine, and that's not fine. And that's the reason for having that condition in the signal. And hopefully it helps.